Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to check out my Simple Healthy Food Swaps for a Healthier You webinar. My name is Samantha Eaton. I'm a certified health coach and personal chef and owner of my company, Healthy Eaton. This should be a really fun webinar and I'm really excited that you're checking it out. I think you're going to learn a lot and enjoy it. I wanted to share first some tips on how to get the most out of this webinar. So the first will be to eliminate distractions. I myself am definitely guilty of multitasking, but I think you'll get a lot more out of it if you put away your phone or not check your email during this webinar. Another one is to take notes. It's really helpful to have a notebook nearby so you can jot down some of the things I say, maybe some of the foods that you want to check out. The next one is to be open-minded. Some things I'm going to say might contradict some things you've heard in the past. So the more open-minded you are, definitely the more you'll get out of it. Another tip is to stay on until the end for your special attendee-only freebie and limited time discount. The last one, take advantage of the Q&A at the end. This isn't live, so if you do have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email or reach out to me and I'd be happy to answer them for you. So I thought I'd start by giving you a quick background of myself and how I became in this position to be doing this webinar for you. So I was born and raised in Massachusetts, and I was definitely not always the healthy eater that I am today. Growing up, I ate a lot of processed packaged foods. My parents did not like to cook, so my days usually consisted of Kraft macaroni and cheese, ravioli from Chef Boyardee. I'd start off every day with 4 Eggo waffles, have a hamburger helper for dinner. All these foods were a big part of my diet growing up. When I went off to college, I heard about this whole freshman 15 thing, and I became kind of paranoid about gaining weight. It got to the point where it was definitely not healthy. I was at the gym for 2+ hours a day, taking diet pills, really restricting my food and counting calories. But that's a topic for another day. So food related, I switched up to what I thought was healthier foods. I was eating things that said fat-free on them, that said light or low sugar or no sugar, sugar-free. Because I thought that these were healthier and they'd help me look and feel the way that I wanted to, that I thought I should. A couple years after I graduated from college, I found out that my dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. This is a picture here of me with my parents, my mom Jennifer and my dad Paul. And when he got this diagnosis, my mom and I hadn't really heard of Parkinson's before. We weren't really sure what it was or what we could do to help my dad. So we started researching to see what we could do to help him. And what we ended up finding was some information that if he made some swaps to the foods he was eating, to some products he was using, that he might feel better and slow down the progression of his disease. So we had him try it out. He was a very good sport. And he did end up seeing improvements in his symptoms. And I was completely blown away. I had no idea that food was that linked to how we look and feel. So I immediately started experimenting with my own diet and seeing, how eating different types of food made me look and feel different ways. And I was fascinated by it. I fell in love with it and knew that this is what I needed to be doing with my life. So I went back to school to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and it was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. I also since then got married. That in the middle is a picture of my husband, Sean. Our 2 little fur babies are on the outside. There's Brady on the left and Maddie on the right. And pretty much now I get to live out my dream of helping people live happier, healthier lives in a way that works for them and their lifestyle. So today I'm really excited, obviously, to share with you what we're going to be talking about. So let's jump right into that. You'll see some sayings on this page. Working out is not a free pass for a poor diet, and abs are made in the kitchen, and you've probably heard these sayings before. Well, despite the popularity of these sayings, many people are still overemphasizing the importance of the gym while undervaluing the importance of a healthy diet. This sometimes results in some pretty crappy food habits and a rigorous gym schedule. It turns out those sayings are actually true. You need to give your body the right fuel to see the results you're looking for. Of course, the gym can come in handy, but nutrition is often underrated in this situation. So 2 of the most common things that I see people do when they realize this and they decide that they want to start cleaning up their diet is Google something like how to eat healthier and start on a diet. So when you search online for how to eat healthy or something similar, you're going to find a million different recommendations on how to eat and which foods are healthy. That's because there's a lot of ways people define healthy eating. Some people say to only eat fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and meats. Other people say that you need to have whole grains too, like whole wheat and brown rice. Other people say avoid eating egg yolks at all costs. You get the point. Basically, it can be very overwhelming to figure out where to start and what's right for you with all of those different opinions out there. Something you won't find in your Google searching, though, is a healthy eating meal plan that is perfect for you and your body. That's because, like snowflakes, no two people are the same. All of our bodies are unique, inside and out. Because of that, there is no magic one-size-fits-all diet that makes everyone feel healthy and great. All of our bodies really are unique. There are foods that you eat that work really well for your body, but they don't work well for someone else's body. So what you eat might help you feel really energetic. It might help you sleep really well at night, have a nice flat, bloat-free stomach, but it might do the opposite for your friend, for example. Another example is vegetarian and vegan diets. Some people, even bodybuilders, avoid all meats and all animal products whatsoever, and they feel amazing. But if other people were to eat this way, they might feel tired or weak or some other symptom from it because it might not work for them. Hidden food sensitivities are also a big factor. 9 out of 10 people have food sensitivities, and most don't even realize it. One man's food is another man's poison is a familiar saying which simply states that different people can have very different reactions to exactly the same food. This applies to nutritious foods too, like fruits, vegetables, and meats. I love using this example. So we're often told to avoid white bread and eat whole wheat bread instead because it's healthier. But I bet everybody listening in on this knows somebody that has a gluten or a wheat sensitivity or allergy, so to them, whole wheat bread is not healthier. They would probably get sick if they ate it. I do want to point out too that food sensitivities are a lot different than food allergies, as you can see in this chart as well. So starting on a diet is the second most common thing that people try when looking to adopt healthy eating habits. I've worked with many people who have tried different diets in hopes that that way of eating would stick long term and they wouldn't fall back into their old ways, only to fall off the wagon and not get the lasting results that they're looking for. Some of you listening in may identify with that too. There's the restriction-based mentality where we only allow ourselves to eat certain healthy foods and avoid those bad foods, in quotes. Ultimately, our willpower ends up getting the best of us. We give in, we self-sabotage. When we eat something that we're not supposed to eat, we might binge and act like, it's the Last Supper. Like, when am I ever going to be able to have these cookies again? And go crazy eating them. And then afterwards, we feel bad, we feel guilty, remorseful, and of course, I'll start again on Monday. This is a big topic that I work with clients on, breaking that dieting cycle and restrictive feelings around food. So I definitely understand, and I have been there myself. So after hearing that Googling and dieting aren't necessarily the best answers to lasting healthy eating habits and looking and feeling fantastic, where do you turn next? So I'm going to spend the rest of our time together talking about one of the best things my husband and I did back when we were starting down our healthy lifestyle journey, and that was incorporating healthy swaps into our lives, slowly and over time to really build lasting results. Talking food and nutrition to a group can definitely be tough because everyone out there is at such different stages on their journey. Some people are still relying on Red Bull and fast food to make it through the day, and others are starting their mornings with green juice and an omelet. So I tried my best to mix up some more basic and some more complex swaps to satisfy everyone. As I go through them, maybe pick one or two you want to start with and then save the rest for another time. My ultimate goal is to give you some helpful information that you might not already know to get you thinking differently about food and hopefully help you reach your health goals by experimenting and ditching and swapping some different foods for each other. So let's get into it. I wanted to start with something more simple and obvious. The first thing I'm recommending ditch is iceberg lettuce. Now, please don't get me wrong. Iceberg lettuce is definitely a healthier option than like Doritos, but at the same time, there might be healthier, more nutritious alternatives to something like iceberg lettuce, which doesn't have a ton of nutrients in it. Instead, dark leafy greens are fantastic. Usually the darker and leafier the green, the more chlorophyll it has, the more cleansing it is to the body, and more nutrients it has as well. And swapping out different greens for each other, so instead of just having spinach all the time or just having romaine all the time, incorporating different ones into your diet will give you a constant stream of different antioxidants and different nutrients. So it's good to mix up your greens and not just eat the same ones over and over again. The second one I recommend ditching is white potato French fries. And white potatoes are simple carbs. We're going to talk about that more in a little bit. But essentially, it gives you a blood sugar level spike, which also releases more insulin for you, which is a fat storage hormone. So a recommended swap would be sweet potato fries. In the top corner, you'll see those are carrot fries. Butternut squash fries are also a really good swap as well. Any of the root vegetables can be cut really easily and make some delicious fries right at home. If you wanted to swap out your white potato mashed potatoes, making something like mashed cauliflower could be a good substitute as well. The next thing I recommend ditching is table salt. So table salt tends to be really processed. Oftentimes it's even bleached as well, and it doesn't contain a lot of nutrients because it has been so processed. So instead, swapping it out for something like sea salt or Himalayan pink salt is a really good idea. Those contain magnesium, calcium, potassium, iron, zinc, and iodine. All of these elements really are essential for good health, and we don't really get them a lot of other places. So for example, calcium is great for bone formation, nice strong bones. Magnesium is really good for proper cell and brain function, and oftentimes people are deficient in magnesium, so this is a great way to get that. The next thing I recommend ditch is creamy dips. Oftentimes there's trans fats hidden in creamy dips, different emulsifiers. You're looking at a pretty good laundry list of ingredients, but there's a lot of good healthy swaps. Anything that's vegetable based or that you can make yourself is generally going to be healthier. So guacamole, hummus, salsa, I have some good recipes on my website for some of these things, and they can pretty much all be made in 5 or 6 ingredients or less. They'll be so much more nutritious and so much more flavorful by making them fresh yourself. The next thing I recommend ditching is fat-free or creamy salad dressing. Creamy salad dressing similar to the creamy dips reasons I was telling you before, but I want to talk for a minute about fat-free. So when you see fat-free on something, that's pretty much a code word for there's sugar in here or there's artificial sugars in here. Because if there was naturally supposed to be fat in something to make it taste good, when they remove it, it isn't going to taste good. So companies don't want to sell things that don't taste good, right? So they add sugar or artificial sweeteners to it to add that flavor back. When you see sugar-free on something, chances are there's artificial sweeteners in there. So just be careful. Always look at the food ingredient labels to know exactly what you're putting in your body. And fat, in the same lines, is actually really good for you, or certain types of healthy fats. It's great for our brain health, for promoting good cholesterol, revving up our metabolism. It helps with digestion and absorption of nutrients, balance our hormone levels, and lots more. So don't fear the healthy fats. They're actually really nutritious for you. So a healthy swap for this can be just a simple oil and vinegar based dressing. You can use olive oil with a little apple cider vinegar, maybe a little lemon juice and oregano. That could be your very simple dressing to whip up quickly. You'll see some of these on here have some herbs in there that it's infusing, like the rosemary, or that might be sage on the far corner. But these are great because they add a ton of flavor. You get healthy fats, and there's nothing artificial in there because it's just infused with natural fruits, vegetables, herbs, things like that. So definitely check that out. If anyone listening is from the Charlotte area, there's a great place called Pour Olive Oil, and they have probably 50 different types of infused vinegars and olive oils there that are great for topping things off and adding a lot of flavor. The next thing I recommend ditch is the white bread, white rice, and white pasta. So these foods are highly processed and in turn very tough on our digestive system. White bread and wheat bread both come from wheat berries. The big difference between the two is that the white bread has been processed so much that the nutrients and fiber have been removed, so what's left is a very thin, starchy layer. The same thing happens with rice, right? White rice, brown rice start off as the same thing, but the white rice has been stripped down. It turns out we actually need those missing nutrients and fiber to help us break them down in our bodies, as well as keep us feeling fuller longer and giving us energy that lasts. Since those things are missing in the white bread example, it doesn't get digested very easily and ends up coating the top of our small intestine, blocking these small hair or finger-like things that absorb our nutrients. So it's preventing the absorption of nutrients into our muscles, interfering with our insulin response, and more. They're also known as the simple carbs. So I'll break them down one-on-one to give you some healthy swap ideas. So for white bread swaps, if you know that you don't have a gluten sensitivity and you eat gluten and wheat products, getting some type of sprouted whole wheat bread is better for you than getting just a regular whole wheat bread, because when it's sprouted, it makes the carbohydrates and the proteins easier to break down, so they get absorbed easier into your body and assimilated better. If you are avoiding gluten, the 3 breads across the bottom are all gluten-free. The Rudy's is the most common one, or one of the most common brands. Of that, between that and Udi's, I personally like this one better. So that's a choice that you'll probably find in your local supermarket. The Deland Bakery bread, if you guys follow me on social media, you know I'm a huge fan of Deland Bakery bread. I order it online. It has maybe 5 ingredients, and there's no yeast, no corn, no gluten, no dairy, no soy, no eggs, anything like that. I don't even know how it tastes so good, but it really does taste delicious. I wrote a blog post on it. If you're interested, check it out on my blog. The paleo bread on the bottom corner, that doesn't have any gluten in it as well, and there's one version that's made of coconut and one that's made from almonds, so some different options there. Above that, you'll see paleo wraps, so swapping out traditional white tortilla wraps for something like paleo wraps. These are made of coconut. The only ingredient in them is coconut, so they have a slight sweet taste, but they're a really good healthy swap. Above that is the lettuce wrap. I'm sure pretty much everyone here is familiar with a lettuce wrap. You could do a collard green wrap. Any type of green is obviously a healthier swap. On the top left corner, you'll see a red device. So that's called a mandolin, and it's used to help cut things uniformly and at various thicknesses. So what I have on there is a jicama, and jicamas can be found at any grocery store. You'll see that there's a brown skin on it that you peel off, and underneath it you'll find just a beautiful white jicama. And what you do is I take my mandolin and I put it on the thinnest slice, and I run the jicama over it, and what I get is these beautiful white tortilla-like things that are made out of a vegetable. They taste so good. We've officially replaced all tortillas on Taco Tuesday with jicama shells. It's actually the most popular blog post on my website, so definitely check it out. I have a step-by-step tutorial on how to do it, and I guarantee you're going to love it. The last thing I had on there is the thin stackers. So those are rice cakes made out of red rice and quinoa, which is healthier than the white rice cakes. They're also half the thickness. So I know personally, when I've had rice cakes before, if you put stuff on top, the ratio of rice cake to stuff on top isn't the best. So with the thin ones, it tastes so much better. I love putting avocado on top and a little sea salt. That can be a really great snack or breakfast. The next swaps are for white rice. You can do something like millet, brown rice, sprouted quinoa or sprouted lentils, or just regular quinoa or regular lentils. But those are all healthier versions of white rice, and they can be used any place that you would use white rice typically. Cauliflower rice is definitely getting more and more popular these days. The top picture is from my website. I do have a step-by-step tutorial on how to make it, and really it's the same thing. You can just easily swap out anytime you would have rice for cauliflower rice instead, and it's a lot healthier because it's just a vegetable. The last one is the white pasta. So you can swap it out for the top middle one, which is spaghetti squash. So it's pretty much nature's pasta. All you do is bake it in the oven and scoop it out with a fork, and you get beautiful pasta. There's brown rice pasta, and brown rice pasta has been coming up all over the place lately, all kinds of different brands. I've tried so many of them. I've been gluten-free for about 7 years now, but this brand in particular is my favorite. They have it at pretty much every grocery store. Below that, you'll see quinoa pasta, and that's just pasta made from quinoa, ground up to flour. Then there's more protein-based pastas. So from Trader Joe's, for example, they have black bean pasta. The only ingredient in it is black beans. Same with the red lentil pasta. Those two have about 20 grams of protein per serving. So you're swapping out the white simple carbs for something that's more nutritious and has more of a value and will impact you a lot better. The last one you see on the bottom corner is a spiralizer. So this is a really fun tool. You can take something like a zucchini or butternut squash or sweet potato and put it through the little crank, and it will turn out beautiful pasta noodles for you. Some people like it raw. I like to boil mine for a couple minutes and then drain it because it makes them a little bit softer. But don't boil it too much or it'll get a little mushy. But that's an awesome swap. So I always recommend adding fiber, fat, and or protein when eating carbs to help further control blood sugar levels. By combining these nutrients with bread, rice, or pasta, it really changes the way our bodies react to it. So you'll see some fun examples here. These can be used for breakfast or a snack or even a dessert. The top middle one, the nut butter with banana and chia seeds, is really good. It's a good snack or an after dinner thing. Avocado, tomato, and basil is really good. Any of these options are great. Definitely check them out. You can use that Deland Bakery toast, or you can use the rice cake thins. Either of those would be perfect for this. For some ways to add fiber, protein, and or fat to pasta swaps or to rice swaps, using something like grass-fed butter or ghee. That's my absolute favorite brand of ghee, the Ancient Organics. It's so good. And I have a dairy sensitivity, so I can eat ghee and not have a reaction from it and still get the good buttery flavor and the good healthy fats. And of course, pairing like a Himalayan salt with it is perfect. Avocado, great healthy fats, chopped vegetables for fiber, nuts and seeds, infused oils like we were talking about before, and then of course beans and meat is another great thing to add too. The next thing I'm recommending ditch is croutons. So croutons, really similar to what we were just talking about with the white bread, plus they're really processed. A great swap is nuts and seeds. So with nuts and seeds, you still get a really good crunch, so you won't be missing that from the croutons. Plus, you'll also get an added bonus. So when you eat salad, there's vitamins in there, there's nutrients, minerals, things like that. But certain vitamins like A, D, E, and K are all fat soluble, meaning that your body absorbs them a whole lot better if you eat them with some type of a healthy fat. So hopefully if you're eating a salad, you'll be making your own delicious olive oil and vinegar based dressing, but if you add this, it will just add to the nutrients for you too. The next thing I recommend ditching is corn and potato chips. So chips are an inexpensive and easily available snack, but the toll they take on the body over time might not be worth the convenience. Most corn and potato chips are made with genetically modified ingredients and are high in trans fats, which increase risk for heart disease by clogging arteries and increasing total cholesterol levels. Something to note as well about trans fats is that companies don't need to disclose if there's any trans fats in a product if there's less than 0.4 grams per serving. So if you look on the front and it says, no trans fats, or if you look on the label and it says 0, that might not mean that it's actually true. So look at the ingredient list. If you see partially hydrogenated oil in there, know that there's at least some trans fat in the product. So I know most people don't just eat one serving of chips if they're going to eat some. So if you're having a couple servings, that's probably going to put you over that 0.4 grams mark. They also, both corn and white potatoes spike your blood sugar levels because they're simple carbs. And being aware of the presence of preservatives and additives like MSG, which is often hidden on ingredient list labels as something known as yeast extract. So if you see yeast extract, that means MSG, which makes you crave food and make you have a hard time stop eating it. Sodium content as well. A lot of chips are high in sodium, which is a major culprit in hypertension as well. So for some healthy swaps, you can use something like plantain chips. Those are really good, made from plantains. I've actually seen them at Home Goods before. They have them at all kinds of places these days. Brown rice chips, those are awesome. That Loose Organic brand is great because sometimes you'll see chips that say brown rice on the front, but if you look on the ingredient list, there's corn in there too. So this brand in particular is one of my favorites. I get it on Vitacost.com. The chips in the top corner are potato chips, but they're made with avocado oil instead of a vegetable oil, which increases inflammation. So that might be a healthier swap there. Any type of root vegetable, you've probably heard of Terra chips before. Those would be a healthier swap. The sweet potato chips from Way Better Snacks. If you want to be all fancy and make your own corn tortilla chips that are baked instead of fried, you can do that as well. I'd recommend getting an organic one so you know that it's not genetically modified or sprayed with synthetic pesticides. Same with the Soy brand next to it. Those are organic chips. So, I'm by no means perfect, and by no means do I do every healthy swap all the time. And sometimes I do want corn tortilla chips to dip into my salsa. So when I do get them, I make sure that they're organic. So at least it's a healthier version of it. Kale chips are becoming more and more popular as well. That's my favorite brand and my favorite kind. And then back to the other side on the top left corner, those are zucchini chips. So I've made those before by taking that red device, that mandolin again, putting it on a really thin slicing setting and running the zucchini through there, putting them on a cookie sheet similar to the corn tortillas you see on the bottom, and then baking them. They're really good. They have a good crunch to them, but they do shrink in size, so just be aware of that. So everything you see on this slide, this is the Beware of Sugar slide. Everything you see on here, these are all health concerns, diseases, or just general discomforts associated with sugar intake, especially too much of it. The average American consumes about 22 teaspoons of sugar per day, which is about 77 pounds of sugar per year. And oftentimes we're getting it in places that we don't even know we're getting it from, and it adds up quicker than we realize. So I wanted to quickly talk about what happens when we eat sugar. So first thing, sugar enters our body and we crave it, we like it, dopamine is released in the brain saying, yes, this is delicious, we love sugar. And this applies to those simple carbs too, like white bread, white rice, and white pasta. We actually have enzymes on our tongue that as soon as we eat them and start chewing them, it turns it into sugar almost immediately. So those people that say they're not addicted to sugar, they're addicted to bread, this also applies to that as well. So anyway, you eat it, dopamine's released in your brain, and your blood sugar level spikes. What happens next is your insulin levels spike to try to control blood sugar levels, and high insulin levels over time can cause insulin resistance, diabetes, and fat storage long term. After that, we experience, from our sugar high to our sugar crash, we then move on to being hungry again. It's increasing our appetite and our cravings, and then the next thing we know we're eating sugar again, and we're just stuck in this, seemingly endless cycle. I like to give the example of going out for sushi. So every time I go out for sushi, I'll get a bunch of rolls there, I'll eat so much and feel stuffed when I leave. And then about an hour later, I'm feeling starving again. And that's because it's all the white rice I'm eating. The amount of rice compared to the teeny amount of fish inside is by no means balanced. So that's just an example of kind of how this works. So next, I want to go over some examples of where sugar might be hiding in some foods you might not realize. So I wanted you to check out this label. Whenever you're at a store and you're looking at the label and you see a certain amount of grams of sugar, grams are a little abstract, right? It's hard to tell, 22 grams, like how much is that? What does that look like? So an easy way to figure that out is to divide the number by 4, because for every 4 grams you see, there's 1 teaspoon of sugar. So it makes it a little bit more visual for you to be able to tell how much you're getting. So the first thing I wanted to start with was a dressing. This is a red wine vinaigrette. If you made it at home, I bet you wouldn't even think of putting sugar in here. But in this one, there's actually 4 grams of sugar and 2 tablespoons of salad dressing. And most people probably use more than 2 tablespoons in a big salad. This example right here, this is just a small, individual serving cup of instant oatmeal. It's probably full about a little more than halfway, so it's not even full to the top in this container. But if you start your breakfast or your day with this and have it for breakfast, you're looking at about 12 grams of sugar in this container, which is definitely a lot more than you'd think in oatmeal. Chobani Greek yogurt. So Greek yogurt, this one here is a non-fat yogurt, so there's very little fat in here. There's a pretty good amount of protein, but there's also 16 grams of sugar. So yes, you're starting your day with some protein, but you're also getting 16 grams of sugar. So it might be a good opportunity to say, I would like some protein in the morning, but can I get it another way that isn't giving me 16 grams of sugar at the same time? Ketchup. Ketchup is a really popular condiment that a lot of people use. I'm probably one of the only people that hates ketchup, so I don't have it very often. But I do know that most people use more than 1 tablespoon of ketchup when they eat it, and 1 tablespoon is actually a serving on the label. So you're looking at 4 grams of sugar per 1 tablespoon of ketchup. And just so you know, that means 1 teaspoon of sugar per 1 tablespoon, and there's 3 teaspoons in a tablespoon. So almost a third of your tablespoon of ketchup is sugar. Crazy, right? The next one on here is golden roasted turkey breasts from Healthy Choice. I used to eat these all the time. I was obsessed. This is when I didn't cook, and I thought this was a healthier alternative. It says 18 grams of protein on the front. You wouldn't really think that there'd be sugar in this meal, but you're looking at 16 grams of sugar, or 4 teaspoons of sugar. So this is an area where it's hiding that you might not even think to look in there. This cereal, I wanted to point out, it's organic, it's gluten-free, non-GMO certified. Those are all buzzwords that, companies throw out because, obviously organic is better than non-organic because it means it isn't genetically modified. There's no synthetic pesticides, which have been linked to a number of different health concerns over long term. But it still contains sugar, so it doesn't automatically mean it's healthy just because it's better for you than other alternatives. So in this, you're looking at about 8 grams of sugar and 2/3 of a cup of cereal. And again, this is usually something most people will have 2 servings at a time of and not even think about it, which will put you at 16 grams already. Trail mix. Trail mix is often thought of as a healthy swap. You're looking at some nuts, some raisins. In this one in particular, there's no candy, so it's not like there's hidden chocolate or hidden M&Ms in here or anything. It's just nuts with dried fruit. But it still has 9 grams of sugar and just 1/4 of a cup, which is pretty small. I wanted to point out too that I know that dried fruit has some natural sugars. There's actually sugar listed on the label 3 times. So it's coming from actual real sugar, not sugar from fruits. Baby Ray's barbecue sauce. So this is definitely a very popular barbecue sauce, I've heard these days. You're looking at about 16 grams of sugar per 2 tablespoons of sauce. And did you know too that high fructose corn syrup is the #1 ingredient in this product? That means there's more high fructose corn syrup in here than any other ingredient in this sauce. Lastly, I wanted to end with some protein bars. A lot of people love protein bars. They're great on the go, grab and go. You get your 20 grams of protein. But a lot of them come with a lot of sugar. So the top one, the Gatorade, 31 grams of sugar in this bar. 31 grams. Pretty crazy. The bottom one, you're looking at 21 grams, which is still a lot. There's more sugar in there than there is protein. The moral of the story is start looking at labels, start looking at all the places that sugar is hiding. If you look at a product just on the nutrition facts label that you think sugar would be in and you see a 0 or a low number, always look at the ingredient list because there might be a artificial sweetener in there that's put in there to keep the sugar number down. And artificial sweeteners are just as bad, if not worse, than actual sugar. So on this slide, you're going to see some sugar cubes raining in from the top. And each one of these sugar cubes represents 1 teaspoon of sugar. So you're able to see how much sugar is in these beverages. So some of them, like the Pepsi, the Sobe, the Monster, you might think like, all right, yeah, it makes sense. There's a lot of sugar in there. Those are sugary drinks. I think of them as that. But the Gatorade and the Snapple, those are traditionally thought of as healthier alternatives. So the Gatorade, for example, 13 teaspoons of sugar is in the Gatorade. And what that does is it actually dehydrates the body because it pulls water from our cells and dumps it in our stomach to help our body better handle all the sugar that's being thrown in there. The Snapple, that's one that I used to drink all the time. I thought Snapple was so healthy. They have pictures of fruit on the front. Like, it needs to be healthy. But you're still getting 12 teaspoons of sugar in there as well. So again, just always be aware of what is going on. Don't always fall for labels, because labels are only there to get you to buy the product. And the all natural that you see written on the front of Snapple, that literally means nothing. Any company can write that. There's no definition behind all natural, but it sounds nice and it's written in green, so it looks like it would be a healthier alternative. But now we know better. So the next one is ditching soda and sugary drinks. So obviously these are high in sugar. With sodas, they tend to contain harmful chemicals and additives that do additional damage to the body beyond just the sugar. So for example, there's something called phosphoric acid in Coke. And what that does is it eats away at the enamel on your teeth. It causes digestive problems and bone loss because it leaches calcium from your bones. So sugar alternatives like diet drinks, those are absolutely no better. They're linked to over 100 health problems, including seizures, MS, brain tumors, diabetes, migraines, crazy things, and it can be really hard to quit them and stop them. So if you want help, let me know. So luckily there's a lot of healthy swaps for this. When I first met my husband, he was drinking about 5 sodas a day. And at the time, we didn't really know it was that bad. Like, we kind of had a feeling, but we didn't really know. And then when we learned more about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, you need to stop drinking all this. And he said he couldn't because he was addicted. Like, he wanted to, but he was so addicted to the sugar. So what we ended up doing was taking something like that black cherry, 100% organic fruit juice, putting maybe an inch or two at the bottom of a 16-ounce glass, and then filling it the rest of the way with seltzer water. So what that did was it gave him the nice bubbles that he liked from the soda, plus it gave him some sweetness, but from a much better and safer source, the organic fruit juice. He wasn't getting the chemicals, the additives, like nearly as much sugar, but it was a really good transition to get him away from that habit. Another thing you can add too, you'll see next to that is a small little green bottle that says Sweet Leaf Sweet Drops on it. And that brand is stevia. So stevia is a natural sweetener. It's a plant. I grow it in my garden and I pick off the leaves and chew on them because they're sweet. So that's a really safe natural sweetener. And they make a plain version that you'll see in another slide. But here I wanted to point out they do have a root beer flavored one. And if you take seltzer water, put a couple drops of this root beer stuff in it, it tastes like you're drinking root beer. It's really cool. And it's a lot healthier. Below that, you'll see some cans of Zevia. Zevia is a great product. They have one for every traditional soda out there. So you'll see the first one's cola, then there's like a grape one and a Mountain Dew type one. The only sweetener in there is stevia, so it's a natural sweetener source. It's non-GMO, so there's no genetically modified organisms in there. There's no caramel coloring, nothing artificial. So that's another good thing. If you're used to having soda, that's a great transition, healthy swap for you. You'll see in the middle the peppermint essential oil. Some essential oil brands are safe to ingest, so just make sure that you're having a really good high quality one. But you can put a drop of that in seltzer water as well to make your own soda version. Something really tasty and refreshing is taking a lemon and lime and squeezing that in a glass, putting a couple drops of plain stevia, and then topping it off with soda water. And that tastes like a really clean, refreshing Sprite. It's really, really good. Next to that is coconut water. That's just a really good swap. Even for Gatorade, that's a good swap. But if you're used to drinking juice, that might be a perfect alternative. Infused water. So you can take any type of fruit or vegetable, stick it in water, let it sit for a bit, and it will start taking on that flavor, but in a light, subtle way. One of my favorite things is to put basil and cucumber in water and let it sit. Very tasty. And then another option is tea. Tea is definitely a healthier swap as well. The next swap here definitely makes sense. The white refined sugar, swapping that out for stevia. The one you see here is the plain flavored one. That's a great alternative. You just need a couple drops and it'll be plenty sweet probably for you. The next one over is raw honey. If you can find local honey, that's actually even better than getting something like online. Pure maple syrup can be a good swap, and then organic coconut sugar. So organic coconut sugar is low on the glycemic index, so it won't spike your blood sugar as much as white cane sugar. And this is perfect if you're baking and it calls for like 1 cup of sugar or a half cup of sugar. Hopefully it's not calling for a whole cup. But if it is, using this instead of white cane sugar is definitely a healthier swap. And you'll be able to find it at your local grocery store. It's not a super special or rare item. The next thing I recommend ditching is soy sauce. So soy tends to be controversial in the health world. I'm sure you've probably heard it's healthy at one point, and then you've heard it's not healthy at one point. So today I just wanted to go over some facts just so at least you know what's going on around soy sauce. So 93% of soy is genetically modified and what they call Roundup Ready. So this means that it contains a gene that allows it to be sprayed directly with pesticides and not die. Genetically modified organisms haven't really been around that long. They came around in probably the mid-1990s. So since they haven't been around that long, there haven't been a lot of long-term studies done on them to see what exactly they do to the body. So we're kind of all participating in a big science experiment right now. But on the other hand, synthetic pesticides have been around longer, and there is evidence that shows that it is toxic in the body. It does cause health problems long term, like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, antibiotic resistance, trouble losing weight, allergies, all kinds of things as well. Another thing it contains is something called phytoestrogens, and phytoestrogens mimic the body's natural estrogen hormones. And this leads to problems for both men and women, including increased risk for cancer and infertility. Another thing it contains is high levels of phytic acid. And what this does is it inhibits the body's ability to absorb certain minerals, including zinc, copper, iron, and magnesium, which again, most people are deficient in already. And that's because soy is a legume, and all those are characteristics of legumes. So just some information there. If you are going to have soy, I would definitely recommend going organic or getting something that's fermented. But I have a healthy swap for you for soy sauce, and this is probably one of the most popular swaps out there. Whenever I do this presentation, I've done it in person a bunch. People will email me after saying they got the coconut aminos and they love it. So coconut aminos is made of fermented coconut, and it contains lots of amino acids that help repair and build our muscle tissue. It enhances our brain and nervous system function as well. So you'll see some other fun things on this slide as well. I just wanted to give you an example of how I use it if I'm making a dish that's more like Asian inspired. So I'll use some toasted sesame oil, brown rice vinegar, green onions, chili flakes, garlic, onion, that's all, and ginger of course. That's all really good to use with it. I bring my bottle of coconut aminos with me when I go out for sushi. It's just a really good one-to-one swap for soy sauce. It tastes pretty much exactly the same. I'd say the only difference is it's not quite as salty. So easy swap to that. If you like salty stuff, add a little sea salt or Himalayan salt. The next thing I recommend ditching is peanuts. So peanuts are actually not nuts at all. They're legumes. And everything we just talked about for the soy slide applies to them because they're in the same family. They're one of the most common food allergens, and it's been on the rise for years. But even those of us that don't have an allergy might still experience less than obvious reactions based on an intolerance or a sensitivity. Common signs of food sensitivities to peanuts include weight gain, skin trouble, joint pain, headaches, fatigue, or just upset stomach or bloating. Also, because of how they're grown, so you know peanuts have that soft shell, like you can crack it and break it and then eat the peanuts out of the inside. Because of that, they're grown underground and it's dark down there. It can be moist down there. And when things are dark and moist, that promotes the growth of mold. And since they have these nice soft permeable shells, it gets inside and onto the peanuts. This even applies to organic as well. That's just how peanuts are grown. So they likely contain something called aflatoxins, which are chemicals produced by certain types of mold that have been linked to liver cancer. So definitely something to be aware of there. Luckily, there are good healthy swaps. If you're a peanut butter fan, I know a ton of people are. I used to be a huge peanut butter addict, but now I found sun butter. Almond butter is a great swap for it as well, but sun butter I think tastes a little bit more like traditional peanut butter. I've had a lot of sun butter convert people that just love it now and eat it right out of the jar just like they did with peanut butter. So it's worth a shot. And then if you're used to eating regular peanuts, swapping it out for actual nuts or seeds is a good swap there as well. The next thing is dairy milk, or cow's milk, dairy, however you want to think of it. So this actually reaches calcium from our bones to promote a balanced pH level in our body. So if you think back to science class when you were in middle school, you learned the pH scale and alkaline versus acidic. And milk, what it tends to do is to throw that balance off. And so in order to get it more into balance, it pulls calcium from our bones to put us more in that balanced spot. It can also contain synthetic, genetically engineered growth hormones, pus and blood secretions in the milk, and it can even be fed the cows can be fed a diet of GMO grains versus a natural diet of grass. So cows in nature are supposed to be eating grass, and that helps them get big, strong bones. But some cows are raised eating grains because it gets them a lot bigger, a lot faster, and more milk production, and people get more money from that, obviously. So beware of that. Also, if you're drinking milk from nutrients, chances are the nutrients are completely gone through the pasteurization process. Whenever anything is heated, especially pasteurized, the nutrients are lost. So oftentimes they'll add in nutrients, it can be fortified, but our bodies don't treat those the same way because they don't come from natural sources. Milk is also one of the most mucus-producing substances in the world as well. So just some things to look out for here. It's also one of the most common food sensitivities that I've seen out there, food allergies, is to dairy. Luckily, there are lots of healthy swaps for it. You can get quinoa milk, almond milk, coconut milk, oat milk. Any of these things are great. They have them everywhere now. And if you do want to drink cow's milk, I would definitely recommend going with a whole milk that's organic, because if you do skim milk or 1%, I used to be a huge skim milk fan, but all the healthy fats are removed, and the natural fats that come in milk, like whole milk, are the same type of fats that are in coconut oil that are healthy fats for you. So if you are going to drink milk, definitely go with the whole milk instead of a slimmed down version of it. That has more sugar and you'll get more of a blood sugar spike from it. And also one that's organic, so you know that it doesn't have the synthetic pesticides, or it was probably eating a good grass diet. The next thing I recommend ditching is the cheese. So of course, cheese is like one of those big ones that everyone gives me a dirty look when I bring this up, because it's so good. But cheese is a big love of mine too, and I know that eating it won't help me reach my health goals because I have a sensitivity to it. So whenever I eat it, my stomach is going to hurt, which definitely helps me be motivated not to eat it all the time, but I do have it sometimes. So I wanted to let you know I'm not here to say don't eat cheese ever. I never eat it, because I do sometimes, but I accept the consequences when I do eat it. Luckily, there are a lot of healthy swaps for cheese and ways to make things cheesier so you can still enjoy the delicious taste of it without, hindering your health at the same time. The best thing is this thing called nutritional yeast. Nutritional yeast is a superfood, especially for vegetarians and vegans. It has about 6 grams of protein per 2 tablespoons, tons of B vitamins, all 18 amino acids, and it's a great source of fiber and folic acid too. Oh yeah, and it tastes naturally cheesy. That's like the best part of it. Especially when you combine it with cashews. I don't know why, something about combining nutritional yeast with cashews makes it taste extremely cheese-like. So for example, if you mix, and I have this recipe on my blog, nutritional yeast with cashews and a little sea salt, and you put it in a coffee grinder or you put it in a food processor, it comes to this consistency which is the same as Parmesan cheese, and it tastes so close to just like it, like pretty much just like it. I wouldn't know the difference, put it that way. Another thing you can do is make your own mac and cheese sauce. There's a ton of recipes out there for it. If you want a good one, let me know and I'll send it to you. But you can still enjoy mac and cheese without necessarily having dairy, and it will taste just as good. And then lastly, this is kind of that reach thing that I'm saying, not for the people that are currently doing Red Bull and the fast food. This might be a little too out there, but maybe for those more advanced, this is zucchini cheese. So it's homemade cheese that uses zucchini for a base. It has cashews in there, nutritional yeast, some gelatin to give it that good flexible feel, and if you put it on a burger, it will melt to it, and it tastes really similar. I love it. I make it all the time. It's a very good swap. So the next thing I recommend ditching is Cool Whip. So Cool Whip has trans fats, high fructose corn syrup, and skim milk in it, which we just talked about is worse for you than the full fat milk because it spikes the blood sugar since there isn't the fat in there to balance it out. There's xanthan and guar gums, which are hard on the digestive system, and other preservatives and additives as well. I used to have this stuff all the time growing up. So instead, a healthy swap for that is making your own kind of Cool Whip at home, but with full fat coconut milk. It's super easy to do. I have this recipe on my blog as well. But all you do is take a can of full fat coconut milk like this one here and put it in a big mixing bowl. You can put a tablespoon or two of pure maple syrup or local honey and a half teaspoon of vanilla extract. Then if you have a stand mixer or a hand mixer, this is the exact one I have, just whip it up and it will turn into the same consistency as Cool Whip, and it tastes a million times better. It is so good. Definitely check that out. So the next swap I recommend is traditional ice cream. So the stuff that you find in the grocery store, typically loaded with sugar. It's dairy based, obviously, like we talked about the health concerns for earlier. Generally it will have ingredients that you don't even realize would be in there, or if you do, you probably won't recognize them if you read them. And it's usually hard to eat just a little bit without going overboard. So for healthier swap, these are 2 homemade DIY ice cream swaps. So the first one you could make in a food processor or maybe even a blender, but all you do is take a banana and chop it into slices and put it in the freezer. Then once you're ready to eat your ice cream, you put the slices in a food processor and just whip it up, and it will turn into the same consistency as soft serve ice cream. It's so good. You can get creative with it by adding like cacao powder to it, a little vanilla in there, just to give it different flavors, or even some mix-ins if you like some crunch to it. Another option, if you have an ice cream maker, you can take the similar can of full fat coconut milk like we talked about last time, and again mix it with pretty much the same ingredients that you did for the whipped cream, and then pour it into your ice cream maker, and it will turn it into delicious vanilla ice cream, or cacao in there, and it will turn it into chocolate ice cream for you. Those are definitely healthy swaps as well. If you are looking to avoid dairy and you still want some type of store-bought ice cream, nowadays they have so many, like a cashew milk ice cream, almond milk ice cream. You'll find a lot of those in the grocery store as well. But I'd still say these are still a better swap in the good, better, best scenario. The next thing I recommend ditch is the processed candy bars. So these usually have emulsifiers and preservatives, sugar, and soy in them. So a healthier swap, and this is so easy to make on your own, and it's completely guilt-free, is a 3-ingredient chocolate bar. These are pictures I pulled from my website, but all you do is mix coconut oil, cacao powder, and honey together, pour it into the mold, and you have a chocolate bar in I think 10 minutes in the freezer. It's ready for you. So it's delicious, it's guilt-free. Each one of those 3 ingredients has their own health benefits to them. So you're kind of getting health benefits at the same time as you're enjoying delicious chocolate. So I'd highly recommend checking that out. Then the last one I had for you is eating out at restaurants often. So when you eat out at restaurants, while it can be great, I absolutely love eating out, you have no idea what they're putting in your food, where it came from, how much of it they're using. You have no control over that. So instead, of course, I'd recommend swapping it for cooking at home more. So cooking meals at home is the best way to control what your plate looks like, and most importantly, what goes into your food and then your body. So when you follow a recipe, you become the driver of what goes in there and where it comes from. It also allows you to cut back on added sugar and salt, and to completely remove preservatives, artificial flavors, colors, and trans fats from your plate. If you don't like cooking, that's completely fine. Nothing needs to be elaborate. Definitely keep it simple. I guess you can kind of see the big theme underlying in all the healthy swaps that I went through with you guys today is that whole food ingredients are way better than processed stuff or pre-made sauces or dressings. It's always healthier when you can make something yourself. And that's because when you eat real foods, they pass through your body relatively quickly. Your body digests them easily, absorbs the nutrients and vitamins it needs, and then you discard the waste. Eating processed foods with chemicals, additives, preservatives, they tend to stick around in your body and build up over time, causing more harm than good. So definitely stick to the more natural stuff, if at all possible. So for a freebie for everyone here, I wanted to, invite you all to schedule a free introductory coaching session with me. So if you're curious how I could help you to look and feel like the best version of yourself, let's talk. Don't be afraid to set up this meeting with me. All you do is go to my website and there'll be a big button there that says schedule appointment. And we'll talk, see if I might be able to be a good fit to help you reach your health goals. I know it can be frustrating trying a bunch of stuff and not seeing the results you're looking for, but I have tried and failed so many times and have learned so much along the way and in school that chances are I can help you get there a whole lot faster. And as a special deal to you guys, I'm offering 10% off a coaching package with me, limited time only, so let me know as soon as you can if you want to take advantage of this deal before it goes away. I also want to offer you guys 50% off my healthy breakfast guide. So in here you'll find over 30 delicious and nutritious breakfast recipes to help you look and feel better from the inside out. So this will make sure you're starting off your day with a balanced blood sugar, with balanced hormones, and will set you up for ultimate focus and energy all day long. So it's only $4.99, limited time only. Let me know if you'd like to take advantage of this deal as well. So finally, I just want to thank you guys so much for checking this out. I also want to invite you to check out my blog. I have a lot of great recipes, great health tips, a lot of posts about information and things that we might have been told were healthy, but maybe why they're not, and different links to where you can find more information on that as well. Definitely check me out on Facebook. I'm posting a ton on there. I even have a secret private Facebook group that's even more interactive, so let me know if you want the link to that as well. And I'm also on other forms of social media as well. Look for @HealthyEaton. So thank you guys so much again for tuning in for this webinar. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email address is samantha@healthyeaton.com. I look forward to talking to all of you soon.